We're ready to start video.
You can go ahead. It's recording.
Okay, thank you, sir. At this time, I will call the Town of Estill Council meeting, June 10th, 2020, into order. Mr. Hadley, would you lead us in the invocation?
Yes, sir. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to come together to conduct the business of this town. We ask, dear Heavenly Father, that in sound minds and bodies, dear Lord, that we listen to the words that you give us and the actions that we need to take to move this town and our citizens forward. Dear Heavenly Father, we pray you still offer your protection of us during this COVID-19 pandemic, and that we ask that even though when we disagree, that we still come together in one mind and body, dear Heavenly Father, to represent this town in the manner that we need and in a professional and intellectual manner. For these things we ask in your most precious holy name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Councilman. Now, if you all please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. We can all look at Miss Miller's screen. I've got a flag. I don't know who else does, but we can look at the flag right there. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of
the United States
of
America,
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation,
nation,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
liberty,
Justice.
justice for all.
justice for all.
Moving on, we have item 4, approve May 13th, 2020 council meeting minutes. Council, I hope that everyone's had time to review all of these minutes, and at this time I will take a motion to approve the May 13th, 2020 meeting minutes.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we accept for the approval of the May 7th, 2020 council meetings. Correction, May 13th, 2020 council meeting.
We have a second.
Second.
It's been motioned and properly second. All in favor, I know by raising your right hand and stating aye. Aye. Moving on. Item 5, approval of May 7th, 2020 special called meeting minutes. Council.
So move.
Second.
It's been motioned and properly seconded by Mr. Savino. All in favor, I know by raising your right hand and stating aye. Aye. Moving on. Approval of tonight, June. No, I'm sorry. I apologize. But yeah, June 10th, 2020 council meeting agenda. Council.
So moved.
Second.
So motion properly second. All in favor, I know by raising your right hand and stating aye. Aye. Moving on, old business, there is none. Into new business, we have department reports other than administration, which we have Ms. Miller with us and Mr. Banner with us as well. Is there anything that anyone has to bring forward tonight? Any questions about police, safety and recreation, fire, public works, water and wastewater?
Ms. Mayor, if I could, I'd just ask Ms. Miller to give us a quick rundown, since the department heads aren't here to kind of give their rundown. I mean, she doesn't have to go into any immense detail or anything, but just a quick rundown of how the folks are doing, cutting grass, whether, water and sewer calls are still coming in. Just a quick rundown.
Well, I can say that May was a very busy month for the police department. They had 12 arrests, warrants served, 9 of them, a total of 27 incidents. Traffic tickets were 75. Fire rescue had several drills, 2 drills, 12 calls in town and 6 in the county. 1 actual brush fire, one structural fire and 4 brush fires. Public Works, yes, we're still getting calls in. We did not do cutoffs due to the coronavirus this month, but we will start doing them next month. They repaired 8 water lines and 12 sewer calls. 21 work orders were completed. All employees were tested for COVID-19 and were cleared, including yours truly.
Right.
Mine is a lot more detailed. Do you want me to go into it? It is online on the agenda packet, but I do want to add one more thing. I want to publicly thank Michelle Knight from ESCOG and you, Mr. Savino, and our engineers and EA Services for putting together the fastest CARES Act grant that I've ever seen put together. It was actually submitted this morning,
Great.
and I'm very proud of it.
Great.
So that's where we're at.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Are there any other questions pertaining to the department reports? Mr. Allen,
No, sir, none.
Mayor Pro Tem Solomon?
No, sir.
All right, great. Then we will move on to item B under new business, which would be the May 2020 income statement. And council, as always, advised that we take this as information only. And if anyone has any questions, they're welcome to ask other. If there are no questions, then I will take a motion to accept the May 2020 income statement as information only.
Mr. Mayor, if I'm in order, I'd like to make a motion that we accept May 2020 income statement as information only.
Second.
It's been motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
It's been seconded. All in favor, I know by raising your right hand and stating aye. Motion carries. Moving on, our approval of ordinance 08-2020 adopting the fiscal year 2020/2021 budget first reading. Council, we discussed this and budget in line with our accountant and our administrator. Are y'all prepared? Are there any questions? Are you prepared to go ahead and move forward and motion to accept the budget as is and have this as the first reading? I will take a motion to that effect. Mr. Savino, do you have a question?
I do, Mr. Mayor, and I'm just trying to scroll through my PDF here to get the numbers in front of me. What I was going to try and bring up to everybody here was for our general fund, we have a small contingency in this, and I was just going to take my 2 minutes in the sun if I could to try and urge everybody. Yeah, so about 19,000 to try and urge everybody to see if we would like to set aside $4,000 or $6,000 for some preliminary work for the nature trail. And what I mean with that is a little bit of survey work, possibly getting a landscape architect to do a master plan for us, something along those lines to take a little bit of a down payment towards that. So that was the only thing that I wanted to try and use my 2 minutes for.
Mr. Savino, if I can make a recommendation,
Yes, ma'am.
At this point, I think it would be best that we look at the budget once we start the year, and if we have to make any, amendments at that point, we can do that based on that contingency. But this has already gone to the newspaper and has been published, and we have to pass this budget based on what we published. So I would really recommend that we look at it once we get into the budget year and see what we can do at that point.
Okay.
Are you all right with that, Mr. Savina, moving forward?
No, that's it. I mean, everything else I think was in good shape as far as I'm concerned, and that was the only thing I wanted to try and encourage all of us. I mean, just to throw that out to all of us for thought. So.
I understand. I do know one of the things that you designate a little bit of money. Try getting a hold of Representative Williams this past weekend. He had a death in the family, but I know that I will discuss with him this week on funding. Basically the same thing.
I spoke to him today, Mr. Mayor. I did speak with him today,
Okay.
and he and I
Right.
will get together next week on it.
Perfect. Anyone have any other questions
No
pertaining
questions.
to the budget?
None.
All right. Are we there to take a motion to accept budget?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I'd like to make a motion to approve, and forgive me, I'm scrolling through the PDF here, to approve ordinance 08-2020, adopting the first reading of our fiscal year 21 budget.
Second.
Second.
Do we have a second? All right, it's been motioned and properly second. All in favor? Know you by raising your right hand and stating aye.
Aye.
Item D, approve emergency ordinance 09-2020 related to extension of emergency procedures due to COVID-19. Ms. Miller.
If you recall, we passed an emergency ordinance in order to establish operating procedures when COVID was first declared an emergency. That ordinance was only for 60 days. It has expired because of they're still rising. The emergency is still here. I know that there's been a lot more relaxation from the governor's office, but this will allow us to continue for another 60 days if we need to, in order to, provide services at a limited basis. I am considering amending the plan to start opening up a soft opening of town hall like July 1st. And of course, observing all of the CDC guidelines. We're gonna have to limit people one at a time because of the space constrictions, things like that. I'm considering opening the parks back up, but this ordinance allows us to continue to operate differently until such time as we deem it not necessary anymore. And that's another 60 days.
Okay. Council, is there any discussion?
I'll just ask one question, and I agree with Ms. Miller on this, and just wanted to ask, does it give you enough flexibility so within 30 days or 45 days, if you wanted to do, like you say, a soft opening on July 1st with temperature checks and 2 people in the door and Public Works coming in a stage or whatnot, does it give you enough flexibility to do that?
Yes, sir, because I've already had the plan enacted, and all I need to do is you all voted on it and made it moving document. So this just reaffirms what we did before and allows me to do that. Yes, sir.
Perfect.
The only thing, Mr. Mayor, if I may, I just want to
Please.
make sure the community is aware that this is separate from if I'm understanding this correctly, separate from the curfew order that we had. And so I guess we need to make sure that the community is aware that these are two separate authorizations, for the lack of a better word, for our town. And so I just wanted to throw that out there for the community.
If I may add to that, Mr. Mayor.
Please.
Mr. Hadwin, as of June 2nd, the curfew ordinance expired. The curfew is no longer in place, and the sign has been taken down from the marquee.
Okay.
Mr. Marty,
Yes, sir.
would you like to add anything to that? Legally, council, there are a few stipulations from my understanding, talking with the administrator, who has gotten directive from our attorney as to what we are able to accomplish. And Ms. Hadwin, I see you stretching that ostrich neck to hear what I'm saying.
Yes.
I hope that it comes through clearly. But Mr. Marty, if you would maybe elaborate on that a little bit. We can do a lot, and I don't want to speak too much about this because I don't want to act like I am an attorney or know all the legal ramifications. So Mr. Marty, if you don't mind.
Oh, not at all, Mayor and Council. Again, it is very clearly in the language of this emergency ordinance that has this is emergency procedures and not curfew. You have an ordinance in place that allows the mayor to declare an emergency and impose a curfew, which should be ratified thereafter by council as soon as a meeting can be called. If you might recall that the curfew ordinance you passed was passed before the governor went fully into he didn't call it lockdown, but stay home or go work. Don't do anything else. And I was of the opinion then that ordinance was legal, and the curfew was legal. I relayed to Ms. Miller my opinion that if facts existed inside the town that the mayor and council deemed sufficient to continue the curfew, that was something that council could do and the mayor could do. But those, it's what's going on locally that y'all have to consider. The paper reports every day is a record number of new COVID cases in the state of South Carolina. The paper that I read doesn't report Barnwell County statistics or Hampton County statistics, so I'm not privy to how bad things are down there. And so that's why I told Ms. Miller, if y'all believe that continuing social distancing and continuing the restriction of folks gathering in party crowds in the evenings was something that would protect the overall health of the community, then you certainly are within your rights to continue the curfew on whatever terms you wanted it to do. You could do a curfew and forget alcohol, forget guns, or whatever. So that's, I was told that the acting chief, Williams, believed that the curfew should be extended, but all I was told was that that's what he believed. I didn't get any details of why he believed what he did, so I can't make an opinion without hearing those details. But that certainly, if he presents to you reasons why he believes the safety of the citizens is protected by continuing the curfew on a temporary basis, then you are within your legal discretion to impose one, continue on it. Well, now you have to reimpose it because it's out, because it's been out for 8 days. So my opinion is, if you've got grounds to do one factual on the local level, then you have the authority to do it.
Council, when Miss Administrator Miller and I, when we were discussing this this past week, Mr. Harvey had advised that, you know, we could do as we feel. And the acting chief feels like we do need to keep it in place. But we will have to go through this again. It is up to y'all. When will our next meeting be, Ms. Miller?
It's the 25th, our special called meeting.
If we feel, and y'all feel that way, and we have the majority, then we can reenact it. I mean, I want nothing more than safety and well-being for the citizens of this town. So I can't tell you what will transpire between now and then. The timeline on what this pandemic is doing, but if we need to have something before then, and if our acting chief, Chief Williams, believes we need to, then if we have to have an emergency meeting, that's our duty.
Mayor, if you let me interrupt just a minute, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
You have the authority to listen to whatever facts and establish a curfew without council's participation. Council would then have to ratify your decision. But if you feel like
I can make that decision.
That's right.
I understand. And council, I've always told you, I've never make a decision, never move forward unless it is an absolute, you know, terrible emergency that I know a decision has to be made at that exact second. And I would think of all of y'all and how y'all would move and act during that time. But thank you for adding that, Mr. Marty. And that's not what's on the docket or the agenda, but I wanted to make sure that was clear, that everyone understood that was the direction that we were going in. You know, the governor has changed his pace as other governors in other states have. Things are changing in the country, but we still need to, just because others have done it, as your grandmother always said, or your mother always said, somebody jumps off a bridge, are you going to do it? We need to look at what we are dealing with here in our town and what is best for our citizens. So if we get to that, I will be in contact with y'all. Is there any discussion that needs to be had on this, or are y'all prepared to go, Ms. Miller?
I just wanted to make a clarification. I realized that our curfew was about to end, and because of the civil unrest that is in this country right now, over the situation with the police officers and the unfortunate death, I think that from my conversations with Acting Chief Williams, he was concerned that maybe some of that might spill over into our town and cause some issues. So that's the reason why he felt that maybe the curfew should be, extended again for another 30 days. However, the curfew that we had was based on COVID and COVID-19 only. It had nothing to do with any unrest or any type of problems here within town other than people gathering and not social distancing. I believe that our town folk have done a fantastic job to do exactly that. You're still going to have those that are going to buck the system. But overall, I think that because our original curfew was clearly COVID-19 related, we felt that at this point, with the relaxation across the nations, even including in South Carolina, that it was not appropriate for us to do it as an emergency. It was no longer an emergency issue. And however, if things change and civil unrest begins again here, then at that point, the mayor has the authority, like Mr. Harvey said, to go ahead and enact a curfew immediately to stop those activities. So I just wanted to clarify
Council.
why we move forward.
Okay. Mr. Havin, your hand was second. Mr. Savino, you were third. Go ahead,
The
Mr.
only,
Havin.
the only thing that I would add to that is I appreciate the clarification for our citizens about the ordinance 09/2020 versus the curfew, because I think a lot of them were confused about that situation. So I hope that this dialogue has cleared that for the citizens. The only other thing that I would recommend, that if the acting chief Williams feels that we need to have a curfew reinstated, I think he needs to put that in writing. That way we have some documentation to support the action
Exactly.
based on, I don't feel that we need to have the word of mouth. It needs to be either via email with his signature or some other means with his signature, just for that extra added protection, you know, for our sake. So it's not like we're acting on this just because we as council want to do it. It has come from our law enforcement agency within our town. And that'd be the only thing that I would recommend. But I think our citizens are handling this civil unrest, which is unfortunate that it happened. But I believe our citizens will answer the call in a mature and responsible manner.
Very, very well put, Mr. Alvin. I have been in touch with the chief about the situation. Mr. Savino, one minute. And yeah, I think that we have the greatest citizens in the world. I truly do. I've talked to them over the past few weeks, dozens of times about the situation with curfew, also with COVID-19, and also with the unfortunate incident with the police department in Minneapolis. So I agree with you that we do need to make sure that our police department, who is keeping people safe, they're keeping people safe. They're out there doing their thing to make sure we all stay safe. That they're the first line. But I truly think that our citizens here in this town, we're all together, and they've shown that. Ms. Savino, you had a question, and Ms. Solomon, do you have a question or something to say as well?
Yes, I would just like to add, I haven't heard Ms. Miller mention it, but I'm pretty sure she got that in order for the soft opening of making sure everyone that enters the building have on a mask.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And Ms. Savino, you had something?
Yeah, I was just going to kind of echo what Ms. Solomons was talking about, and maybe we can kind of talk through a little bit. Some other municipalities are doing this and have done this, but kind of a proclamation and some best practices for their town, but also for the resumption of their operations. So, you know, if we're going, and what it looks like. So, for example, if we're going to let people in the town hall, we're going to do it one at a time. We're going to require a mask. We're going to provide hand sanitizer, whatever that kind of looks like. And then as we bring our folks back, whether it's Public Works in a more formal fashion, just maybe we can talk more through that at our June 25th meeting about what that really looks like, so we can communicate it to the public, and they can have an idea of what is coming back, whether it's court, not court, when, how we do it, that kind of stuff.
We can do that. I can have a document prepared. Court has already resumed, and they had their first court date. I mean, a full court, I should say, this week. That is governed by the Chief Justice. He ordered courts reopened, and the judge and Miss Allen only allowed 3 people in. I mean, they followed whatever their Chief Justice said had to be followed, and our police department were the ones that made sure that that's the way it happened. So, yeah.
All right, well, thank you, Mr. Savino. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Also, that was a very, very good point that you made about a soft opening, you know, and making sure that people wear masks. We want to protect everybody, but also at the same time, we need to protect town hall. We've got to be the operating entity for this town, for the citizens. So if there is not any other discussion, I will this time entertain a motion for item 7D, which is approval emergency ordinance 09-2020 related to extension of emergency procedures due to COVID-19.
Mr. Mayor, if I may make the recommendation that we approve emergency ordinance 09-2020 related to extension of emergency procedures due to COVID-19.
Second.
We have a second from Ms. Solomons. All right, all in favor, I know you by raising your right hand and stating aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. So now we are on to item E, which is approval of resolution 2020-05 to annex certain real estate property owned by the town of Estill to be included within the bounds of the town of Estill. Ms. Miller.
One of your strategic planning session goals was to bring in our spray fields into the town limits. And this resolution actually does that. I had a conversation with Councilman Hadwin yesterday, and I had not realized that you all had never really done any annexations in the past. So just for a point of clarification, I wanted to go through the paperwork that you have in your packet. And if you look at the mapping, and I apologize because unfortunately Hampton County does not have the mapping capabilities that I wish they did, where I could just print out one big map and show you the properties on it and be done with it. We don't have that capability, so I've had to piecemeal this. But the first page that you'll see ends in 029. That is one of our properties, if you're following along with me. And behind it, it'll have the description of the property, the ownership, and I marked it by saying town.
Mm-hmm.
Is everybody following me so far?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Second one is another one of our properties. Same thing, attached to the back of it, shows ownership, and it's marked town. So that's the second property. The third one is number 28, ending in 28, also our property. So it's 3 properties that we're annexing in. And behind it, again, it's got its description, ownership, and it says town. In order to be able to annex property in, it has to be contiguous to properties that abut it or next to it, even if there's just a little sliver that is next to that other property. Those properties have to be in the town. So in order to prove that, the next one will say adjacent. That property is adjacent to one of our properties that we are actually annexing in.
Yeah.
And behind it, you will see it's owned by Mr. Long. And if you go a little bit further down.
Miss Miller, I've got one more map. I'm gonna step out of the picture for 1 second. Council, I'm going to grab one other map that I had from Administrator Lucas from back in 2007 that was done. And I've just got one question. I'm going to step out of the picture and put on mute for a second while I search my file cabinet, and I'll be right back. I'm
Okay.
listening though.
Okay. Anyhow, if you look at the page that's behind it, as you go down past the number, you'll see a line that says Estill. You'll go one box, second box, the third box that says Estill. And then you'll see Municipal Estill. Okay, that's where they get their services. That's where they get their tax bills. They are inside the town of Estill. If you look at ours, it says Hampton County. Or it doesn't say anything, as a matter of fact. Okay? Yeah, it doesn't say anything. It just says it's fire is Estill, the police is sheriff's department, ambulance, medic 2. That means that's in the county. If it's serviced by Estill town, it'll say Estill. And that means it's in our town. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing goes with the next adjacent property, which is owned by the South Carolina National Bank. If you go down to that same line, you'll see it says Municipal Estill. And the third adjacent property is the same exact thing, which is owned by Rhodes Jennifer Shannon. And it also says Municipal Estill. And all three of those properties abut our properties that we are trying to bring in. So I just wanted to make sure that you all understood how the annexation process goes. If this was not our property, if this was somebody else that wanted to come into the city, to the town, we would have to go through the same exercise to make sure that their properties abut properties that are within the town of Estill. We have to, by our zoning ordinance, actually zone the properties that we annex in. All properties annexed in by the zoning ordinance are to be zoned R12, which is general residential. Down the road, we can rezone them if we want to. But there's one more step that has to take place when properties are coming in that are owned by other people. We have to have a plan of service for them. How are we going to provide water? How are we going to provide sewer? How are we going to provide police services and that kind of thing? That's attached to the document that annexes them in. Okay, we don't need to do that because it's our property and it's the spray fields. But I'm just giving you a heads up for the future if we bring any other properties in as to how it works.
Ms.
Does that make any
Miller.
sense?
Yes, ma'am. At this point, I would just like to interject this. We would need to also make sure that we notify county dispatch so that this property that we're annexing in, that is the town's, where it has county jurisdiction, such as the county fire department or the sheriff's office, they will need to change that in the CAD, which is a computer-aided dispatch system, so that it will reflect that Estill PD has the jurisdiction there. Estill Fire has the jurisdiction, not Hampton County Sheriff's Office and not Hampton County Fire Department. So we need to make
There is a
sure
legal procedure that has to be followed by statute. As soon as this resolution is approved, it has to go to the county clerk to be recorded. The county clerk is responsible for making sure that 911 and dispatch is told. And it also needs to be filed with the Secretary of State's office in the state capitol. So, I'll be happy to go ahead and make sure that 911 dispatch knows about it. But there is a legal requirement that we have to give it to the clerk, and the clerk's responsibility is to advise everybody else.
Right.
But I will be happy to do it.
Right. I just think it would be in our best interest to follow up to make sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed down the road.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is essentially, go ahead, Ms. Savannah. Ms. Savannah,
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I'll ask here in a minute.
no, please. Go, you have a statement or a question?
Yeah, no, I was going to ask, I know Mr. Harvey, on the municipal trainings, usually talk about 3 ways you annex property in, and usually it's like appraised value, 75% of your appraised value, and then 75% of like your participants, and then there's like a forced way or something like that. I don't know the 3 specifics, but I know there's kind of 3 ways. Are we able to, since we're the owner of this property, are we able to not bypass, but I guess kind of bypass those 3 ways? Or since we're the owners and we have the appraised value, are we able to check 2 boxes at one time? Or how does it work just by passing a resolution?
Well, as referred in the resolution, section 5-3-100 specifically states, if the territory proposed to be annexed belongs entirely to the municipality seeking its annexation and is adjacent thereto, the territory may be annexed by resolution of the governing body of the municipality, period. You don't have to get, I mean, it makes no sense to get the consents of the owners of the property, the rest of the property, when you're the only owner of the property in question being annexed. So the rest of the other code provisions, Mr. Savino, have no applicability to this situation.
Perfect.
At all.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Ms. Savino, a very valid point on that, and I would suggest, and I can forward you contact to Mayor Harry Williams of Orangeburg, of Hardyville, and you will find out why they have such a Jackson Pollock painting of the town of Hardyville all over the place. I mean, it is the most erratic area that they have annexed in the town of Hardyville. I've spoken with them about this on several occasions, but he can enlighten you. And it's Bronco Bostic was a big initiator of that. He was a former mayor down there. But anyway, that's a valid point. Council, is there any other discussion on this? I mean, this is just a stepping stone to moving us forward. How does I mean, I ask your opinion. I mean, are there any statements? We'll just take it to a vote.
I'll make a quick statement if no one else wants to or whatnot. I think it's a great thing. I'm actually very proud of us as a council to take this step. I mean, it's a big step that the town needs to take, and there's more of this that we need to do that may not be quite as easy, but there's more of this that we need to do. But I'm just proud of all of us and Ms. Miller, Mr. Harvey, both, Ms. Painter, for helping us do this, because this is something we've wanted to do. And I just want to thank all of y'all for helping us get to this stage. And I'm just proud of everybody that's on the council for us collectively as a body getting to this stage to do this.
It's a moving forward moment, Mr. Man. I just say it's a putting the town forward, moving us forward in a direction for the better. Is there any discussion?
The only thing that I will say, Mr. Mayor, and I will echo the sentiments of Councilman Savina. This is something that I feel is going to move Estill forward, just like the rest of us feel that it will move us forward. As our property, I think we should have the authority with our own law enforcement and fire service to be able to protect our property if it's needed. Not saying that the other entities aren't doing a good job, but it just gives us a little more control of our property without having to really go through the extra steps that are necessary. And I think our citizens, will benefit in the long run from this procedure. And it was a long time coming.
Well, I've been right there with you, Edwin, as you have gone out with calls in these areas that are, the unincorporated Estill's, areas of Estill. You and the volunteer fire department. I mean, I've been out with y'all, on the way to the other side of Scotia. Y'all, you and the fire department protect all, no matter where. But I feel this is just a great stepping stone to moving us forward, and looking out for our citizens and making the right decisions to moving us forward to the next step of bigger and better things. Mayor Pro Tem?
I'd just like to echo the same as Council Savina and Council Harron. It was a long time coming, and I think the citizen will be proud and be happy with the outcome of this.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Is there anything else?
That's all, man.
At this time, I will accept a motion for item 7E, approval of resolution 2020-05 to annex certain real property owned by the town of Estill to be included within the boundary of the town of Estill. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I'd like to make a motion that we accept resolution 2020-05 to annex certain real property owned by the town of Estill to be included within the boundary of the town of Estill.
I second it.
Just as a,
We have a motion. I'm sorry, Mr.
do we
Savina,
need
do you
to,
have?
do we need to, just a point of order or a question, Mr. Harvey, do we need to make a motion to approve, or are we okay with the
Accept.
motion to accept?
It would probably be more appropriate to use the word approve or adopt.
Well, that's the way
Thank you.
it's
I was going to bring that up.
and the agenda is approval. So we have a motion and a second to approve. All in, Ms. Savina?
I think we need to amend the motion. He made a motion to accept, and we may need to amend the motion.
You're correct, Mr. Savina.
Okay, well, I'll make the amendment to approve the resolution 2020-05 to annex certain real property owned by the town of Estill to be included within the boundary of the town of Estill.
I second it.
All in favor? I know you by raising your right hand and stating aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Mr. Harvey, you better be glad Savina's not a lawyer.
I was about to bring the same thing up.
And I'm just joking with you, Mr.
If he
Savina.
was, you
Those
might
are
save some money on your town attorney.
Conflict of interest.
All right, moving forward, council. We're looking at under new business, item 7F, discussion related to boards and committees. Ms. Miller.
Well, as we move forward, we took one step tonight. We need to take probably about 20 more. I just completed the training that some of you actually took. I know Councilman Hadwin did, because by default, I am the zoning administrator for the town, and I needed to complete the 6-hour course on the comprehensive plan, zoning, planning, the whole bit, which I just did. But I was glad I did it for one reason, and you keep hearing me say this. I come to South Carolina, and I'm used to things being a different way, and South Carolina turns to do their things a little differently. But to me, this was a confirmation that what I was looking at was correct. And while we have a comprehensive plan, we're missing a lot. of elements. We do not have a future land use map that I'm aware of. I'm gonna have to get together with the people that put the comp plan together and find out if it exists or if it ever happened. We have some zoning
What was
regulations
that?
that were passed. I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, you said we don't have a futures.
Future land use map.
Okay.
That is something that needs to be done with the comprehensive plan. I have not been able to find one. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. I'm just saying. We have a zoning ordinances that were created in 2012. Hopefully, excuse me, when Municode gets done with our codifications, we can get the true and real zoning ordinances together once and for all. But we do not have a comprehensive zoning map. We have about 10 of them. That's another thing that I have to look into. You do not have a planning commission. You need to have one by law. In order to be able to have zoning regulations, comprehensive plan, approvals of development, all of that by law has to go to the planning commission. They are not a regulatory commission. They are an advisory board that's appointed by y'all. So I'm bringing this up because we are looking towards the future. Estill has a lot to offer and a lot of opportunities. But we as a town are not prepared for development opportunities until we get these commissions on board. The Planning and Zoning Commission is also the commission that deals with zoning and making sure that the zoning matches our comprehensive plan and brings forward recommendations for ordinances that will regulate all of that, which will then go into what you call the land development regulations. So we have a lot of steps that we need to take, but I wanted to bring this up. We have some beautiful historic homes in this town. We have nothing to prevent somebody from coming in, going ahead and taking that beautiful home down and putting up whatever they want to put up. You need also an architectural and historic review board. They are the ones that will have to go through plans before anyone builds anything within those neighborhoods. You want to make sure that they also give us recommendations through the board of the planning commission so that we can do a historic overlay over where we have our zoning now so that we can protect those homes. There are so many other things. We've got neighborhoods that have a certain look, and you don't want something coming in that's going to make it look worse or bring down property values because it just doesn't look right. Those are the things that you need to put in place, and in order to do that, you have to have those boards. So I wanted to bring this to you. I also want to bring it forward to the public that these are important things if we're going to keep Estill the way it is and move forward and at least preserve the history that's here. Look, I live here now too. And I want to preserve that history. I really do. We need some regulations and we need to look at our downtown and see how we want our downtown to grow. There are buildings there that should be preserved that we should just be able to revitalize.
Mm-hmm.
We have nothing on the books to be able to do that right now. So we need to see a planning commission and we need to sit an architectural and historical review board. They can be, usually in bigger cities, they're separate, but it's a small town. We need to get some of these places on the registry as historical places and protect them. So I'm just bringing it up for discussion.
Well, with that, council, if I may, I know, Ms. Savino, you've had some experience with this outside of the town of Estill. You've brought up a lot of very good points that you've been able to put in my think tank. I'm sure you discussed this with other council and other prior administrators. It is a definite thing for preservation of this town. I want to make clear that there are areas that have a certain look. Just because they have that certain look, we're not trying to preserve them because they have a certain look, but the element and the ability to preserve that certain look actually entices investors and development for this town. It is a element that we use to our advantage because it is there. And if we were to take it away or allow it to be taken away, the potential for the devaluing of certain areas of our town may ward off people who are interested. Protecting the items that we have and looking at what we have, the history, the design of our town, and the wonderful people who've been a part of it, protecting that is a key issue. And a key element that we need to really focus on. Look at cities that have live oaks the way we have in the town of Estill, that have historic homes the way we have in the town of Estill, have historic churches. They've capitalized on those places. And yet we've got them right here in the town of Estill. And I think that we have something special. Nothing against any of the other towns in our county, but you don't find some of the things that we have in other areas, other towns in our county. And we need to make sure that we open this discussion up because we want to protect what we have and we want to move this town forward. And with that, I'll open up. And I believe that we can have a very long discussion about this. And I believe that we need to continue to have this discussion, and we need to develop the boards and the commissions to move this in the right direction. But Ms. Miller, I know, understands because she's seen this in several other towns and other various locations. She's been able to capitalize. And I'll say we utilize this element to our benefit. Ms. Miller, you had something to say, and I believe Mr. raised his hand.
I just wanted to reiterate that this is the most important key element in any economic development toolbox that you have. And I cannot stress the seriousness of this issue. And we are a small staff, and we are going to need these commissions and these boards to help us to move forward because one person can't do it. And we don't have the funding mechanism to hire a planner who can professionally do it. We can utilize, the SCOG and MASC and all other opportunities. But without those boards, I cannot stress it enough. You are opening yourselves up to someone coming in my office and saying, okay, I bought XYZ property down on Morrison Street, and this is what I propose to build based on the density that I see in your zoning today. And I saw it happen in Nashville overnight. You had these beautiful homes that were there, single family brick homes, very well kept, the whole bit, nice yards, bigger yards. And all of a sudden in the middle of these two beautiful homes, you've got the most ugly box that you've ever seen in your entire life that does not fit there. And there was nothing there to stop it from happening because there were no architectural standards in that area. Property values went down because that box
Standard and
is
plan
there.
a dream.
Exactly. So, I mean, I've
You
seen this happen.
start very small and move forward.
Exactly.
Ms.
But
Savina,
you start with those boards and commissions. You've got to get them together.
Yeah, I'll be as quick as I can, and I just want to thank Ms. Miller for bringing this up, and we've had a lot of momentum. She's helped us gain the town, all of us as a council gain a lot of momentum and take some good steps forward. And I would, the mayor has helped kind of pushed me to help me get some boards and some names approved, and all of us. And I would encourage all of us to help Ms. Miller and the rest of the staff. And I'm kind of saying it to myself too, to help us get names together, because these really are the cornerstones that allow us to keep the texture and characteristics of our town. So for example, if you think about Charleston, the reason downtown historic Charleston or Market Street looks like it does is because they said, hey, these old rickety brick buildings, we're not tearing them down, and we're keeping them, and we're going to keep it how it looks. The reason downtown Market Street looks that way, we're not tearing this stuff down. You're going to deal with it, and you're going to make it look as good as you can. And it's beautiful. So it's up to us to do that. And I think like I say, she's helped us gain a lot of momentum, and I just want to try and push this to the forefront for us to get some names and get these commissions seated, get the process started, because we need to get prepared. That's all.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
yes, sir, Mr. Hammond.
Just to recap, so our citizens have an idea of what we've just discussed. Just to remind the citizens as well, we already have a Board of Appeals in place for some of our blighted properties. So we've already taken some of these steps, and I want the citizens to understand this is not going to be an overnight turnaround event. It took us years to get where we are, and it's going to take years to get us where we want to be. And these are just small steps in this huge puzzle that we're trying to put together to make their lives better, our lives better, to hopefully increase their property values, as well as make Estill appealing and attractive for industry, for businesses, for families that want to relocate here. And if the port, and I hope it does, if it ever comes to fruition, we really don't have any choice but to absorb some of that growth. And it really behooves us, while we have time, to take and review these documents and to review these articles or this process, and to make sure we do our due diligence to put us where we're steering the ship and the ship is not steering us. Hardyville can only absorb so much right now. Ridgeland can only absorb so much. Yemassee is a prime example. The growth is coming to them. We already see it in Estill. We have people moving from Bluffton and Beaufort and Hilton Head to Estill to escape some of the nuances, I guess, of everyday life in those areas. If you travel 278 along Hardyville to Bluffton, you see the development. So eventually it's going to have no choice but to come our direction. And we need to have everything in place. As Ms. Miller said, when a developer comes and wants to put something in, is either yes or no, or you've got to modify it to meet the needs. And not only that, it's going to allow them to pay these impact fees to build or put this project that they have designed within our town without burdening the citizens of tax dollars to put that infrastructure in for those design projects or the agenda of those developers. So I think we need to move forward. But I think we need to also do our due diligence. And like Councilman Savino said, we need to get people in our community on these boards and get them more involved in our community. And the more of our citizens that are involved, the more pride that's going to come back in our community, the more responsibility we're going to have in our community. And it's going to eventually, it'll help our police department get rid of some of the crime that we're having to deal with right now. Because when our property values increase and people have pride in their neighborhoods and their community, guess what? That is a deterrent right there for some of this crime. Getting rid of some of these blighted properties that we're in the process of right now is going to help move some of that crime. I don't wish it on no one else, but I don't want to have to deal with it in Estill either. So if someone else has got to deal with it, I'm fine with that. But I just want our citizens to understand that we're not going to do something overnight. We've got to do our due diligence, and we want people that are really sincere about moving Estill forward on these boards to help us accomplish the goals that they entasked us to do. But we need them to help. We can't do this on our own. And I think we've got some good citizens in this town that will jump on board and help us do just that. Move Estill to the next level. Man, that's all I have to say, Mayor.
I completely agree with you, Mr. Hammond. Mayor Pro Tem Solomons, do you have anything to add?
Basically, I have this, you can hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I didn't thought you can hear me. I would just like to echo the same thing. I think this would be a good idea and get some citizens involved. I'm pretty sure that we all know someone that will be glad to come aboard and help us move Estill forward, because we need to move forward. And I really would like to commend Ms. Miller on the effort of getting this information out there to us so we can move Estill forward.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Council, I had one thing. Mrs. Savino said one thing about it, and I was fortunate enough through the South Carolina Arts Council to attend Joe Riley's design forum and to really hear what he went through from 1975 to 2016 and what he did with the city of Charleston. I have a lot of respect and admiration for Joe Riley. When they wanted to tear places down, he said, no, it's not going to happen.
I heard him speak. Speak in Florida a few years back. He would not let his town be picked apart. And the citizens were the ones who were on the boards. A few were elected, majority were people who took time to make sure that the city that they loved got to where they wanted to be. And that's the greatest thing about it, is that it is a community involved situation. But he would not let areas of Charleston be destroyed. And you see where Charleston is now. 75, it was a totally different story. But it did not happen overnight. It may not happen on our clock, but at least we're putting the ball rolling in the direction for the town that we love. So I believe that we've opened this up for discussion, and we could sit here and talk for hours about it. But put this in your mind, keep it with you, and think about it, because we're going to need to move forward with this. And it is going to take time. It's going to take a vast amount of time, but I do not want to get back on this 6 months from now and say, okay, well, what about it? We need to be discussing this every week. We need to be moving us forward, because we have a beautiful and wonderful place in this world, and we need to make sure that everyone knows that, because
I receive letters, and I think it's the most amazing thing in the world when somebody passes through our town. They talk about the people of the town of Estill and our quaint little town that is preserved in time. One day it will not be if we don't take a stand and we don't have our citizens moving us in that direction. It can turn into a lot of towns in this state that have allowed their downtown to be sideswiped by major intersections. We need to preserve what we have. And when I mean preserve, I'm not talking about just the buildings. I'm talking about the culture of the people that we have here as well, because it can be lost. We have a special group here. That's done great. Mr. Allen, you had your hand raised.
Yes, sir. The only thing I would add to this dialogue that we have right now, and I feel that in order for us to not to constantly revisit this 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 months down the road, and it seems like it gets either put on the back burner or we just side swipe it a little bit and really don't do anything with it. I would make the recommendation that Miss Miller, I know you've done a lot and you've got a lot yet you're still doing that's very important. And I hate to ask you to do one more thing, but I would make the recommendation that you look at where we need to go with this right now. Do we need to get the planning commission together, or do we need to get an architectural review board together separately, or do we need to incorporate it together? And give us a timeline that you would like for us to have names so we can get this established, because the sooner we get this done, that's one more spoke in the wheel that we've already laid the foundation for, and we don't have to worry about dealing with this 4 and 5 months from now.
Ms.
Ms.
Solomon's
Solomon?
got her hand up.
Yes, Ms. Miller, this question is for you. How many members would you like to have on each board?
5.
5? Okay.
Ms. Savina?
Well, yeah, one thing I'd throw out there, just to, again, I know, like I said, we talk about this for hours and hours, so I'll be quick. And with a little bit of your advice to me sometimes, you know, we all know 5 good people. And between the 4 of us, 5 of us, that's 25 good people. So I think we all need to, Ms. Miller can work in parallel with us, but I think we need to go ahead and pick 5 or 8 good names. We all know 5 or 8 good people.
Oh,
we
yes.
Need to get 5 or 8 or 10 good people on a list that way, and we need to bring it to our June 25th meeting, and we can work in parallel with Ms. Miller. We don't need to hold her up, and like I said, we all know 10 good people. We need to get 10 names on a piece of paper.
Get us the guidelines.
Right.
What?
Get us the guidelines of what you need, Ms. Miller. I think that you can see that this council, I know that Councilwoman Bolden will be on board with this as well. I know that she has a care for it the way that we all do. I don't want to speak for her, but get us those guidelines so we can get you exactly what you need. And I commend you on what you're doing, and I commend the council. We all have plenty of people in this town that are always telling us, any way I can help, let me know. Well, now it's time. So, and it'll make it a lot easier on us. And y'all, we could have this discussion for we could have it till next Wednesday, but I know we've all.
I can just, if I just may say one thing, whatever you choose is your choosing. You know your community members better than I do. I'm the newbie on the block here. However, 5 members per board. I need a planning commission, and I need a historical and architectural review board. So that's 2 boards. In the planning commission, it would be good to have a mixture of property owners, business owners, so you have both perspectives. And when it comes down to the architectural review board, the same thing. I mean, you want the business perspective, but you also want you know, the property owners, homeowners, to weigh in. If they have any kind of planning experience or things like that, that would be awesome because I wouldn't have to teach them.
Ms.
But
Miller,
either way, it doesn't matter.
get us the information for each board and detail exactly what you would like. We can discuss an outline on everything all night, but you get us whatever you need, and email that to us. Have it
Okay,
little tiny packet in our box, so that we all can say, all right, we can pick through the citizens that we know, and I think that's the best way to handle it. That'll give us some time to help, and hopefully those that are going to watch this, maybe somebody will call us or step up and say, I would love to be a part of that. That's the best way for us to do it. We don't need to discuss it anymore. Let's get the guidelines of exactly what we need so that we can read it and we can make those, we can help choose, and we'll go from there.
okay.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm not trying to be rude, but I do appreciate your enthusiasm. But I think that you've hit the nail on the head. Get that to us, and we'll take it from here.
Thank you.
Council, we're going to move on to item G, which is public comment. And have we received any email or Dropbox or mail for public comment tonight, Ms. O'Banner or Ms. Miller?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Is Mr. Keeler aware that he can email and mail stuff in? I'm gonna have to call him tonight and let him know, because I know he's probably got something to add. Does anyone have anything to add tonight before we adjourn? Mr. Savina.
I'm gonna be quick, but I'm telling you, we all got to do this census. I just got an email from the census people today. I think everybody is getting them. We are last in Hampton County behind Furman.
It is
I think
ridiculous.
we got 13 or 14% complete on the census. So
Yeah.
all of us have got to tell people to fill out the census. Census.
I tell you right now, it's not because people don't have enough time to do it.
Well, I mean, I don't know if we can stick a poster at the post office or what it is, but I mean, 14% of our
Some.
census.
There is a poster at the post office. I don't know what's. I may need to make contact with the gentleman who, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, who's spoken to us, but we are. I think. Are you sure we're not dead last?
But Furman was below us by 1 percentage point.
Yes, sir. He's correct.
May I make a
Can we get
suggestion?
the police department to do a Blues Brothers announcement around town? I mean, I know that that's funny to everybody, but I'm asking you, this is a serious thing. For
Very
our town.
serious.
It's a serious thing.
I was going
and
to make the.
we've stated it at all of our meetings for the last several years, or last year at least, very repetitive. And if we're at 13, 14%, it's not going to cut it, and it is going to devastate us when it comes grant time. We need to put out a pamphlet, Miss Miller. I want to look into what it will cost us so much more to not be able to receive the grants for what our situation actually is in this town. It is worth spending a few $100s to mail out, in my opinion, to mail out a letter from the town saying the census is not going to do, and this is proven fact. If we don't get these back, we are going to be hemmed up bad. And I've stated it, and I've talked with people, but we've got to we've got to get these numbers in. Ms. Solomon.
Yes, I would like to add about the it's not on tonight's agenda about the 911, and I think that is where our problems lie with the sensor. Since we are talking about that, because on Sunday past, it was a lady in my area, and she was walking up and down the street trying to find homes, and she said majority of the homes are abandoned. She, you know, the address she said was awful. So that is something we need to also get in contact with Mr. Randy Cruz about, and see where we at with the 911 update, because she was telling
As
us
far
she
as I
could not
understand
find
it, we've done our part, Mayor Pro Tem. We've done our part. We're waiting on the county side, if I'm not correct. Correct, Ms. Miller?
That is correct. I spoke with Mr. Cruz, as a matter of fact, 2 days ago, and they are ready to do it. They had to put it off because of COVID, because nobody was meeting. But more than likely what's going to happen is on your meeting in July, they will be hopefully ready to present it to you and to the public. They want to educate the public as to why this happened and why they're going to have to change their addresses again. You know, that is a problem. I agree with you, Councilwoman Solomon. However, there is a bigger problem. People don't understand what the census means.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of our residents are elderly. They don't have the internet, don't go on the internet. So they have, you follow what I'm saying? You can tell them, just go online and do it, but they're not really going to do it. I don't know what the answer
Well,
is.
Ms. Miller, to that same extent, the census has been going on for a long time. People have been receiving. I did mine handwritten, and I put it back in the mail.
Okay, yeah,
I
didn't get anything in the mail.
So I'm just saying it can be done by mail. Maybe we need to have the Census Bureau come to town, and we need to do what we've got to do, because we will lose so much more than a few $100s to entertain the fact of making sure that we are responding. I mean, I walked door to door years ago.
Unfortunately, when and I'm not trying to be negative, I'm willing to do whatever I can do to help the cause. But when I spoke with the gentleman from the census, the biggest problem we've got here in Estill is everybody's got P.O. boxes. They don't get mail at their home, with the few exceptions. So the Census Bureau does not mail to P.O. boxes, period. So half of our residents that live here don't even know what to do, even with the sign up in the post office.
Okay, well, I've never heard that. You're telling me that you cannot get a census through a P.O. box if your registered mailing address is a P.O. box?
Correct.
Mr. Harvey.
Correct.
Mr.
Yes, sir.
Harvey, you there? I see.
Yeah, I'm right here.
Is that it?
I don't
The
know.
U.S. Census Bureau does not. I want to know exactly, because if you do not get mail at your home, you get it at a P.O. box. You have 100% right to receive mail at a P.O. box. Because if that's the case, what do we have U.S. Postal? What do we have the post office for? And then we've got a bigger issue to deal with the fact that people aren't getting the census because they have a P.O. box.
Exactly.
I'm sorry. I don't accept that. I don't accept that, and I'm not going to accept that for this town. I want to know exactly. And what are they doing? If they're not, if it's not coming to their P.O. box, if it's coming to their mailbox, if they don't have a mailbox, you think the mail lady gets out and slips it underneath the door, leaves it on the porch? I don't believe that.
And Mayor, if I may add to this, I already did my census online, and she even came to my house to bring me a census and had my address on it.
Yeah.
I've already had 5 or 6 emails about it. But I want to know.
Yeah, they are going, the census people are going from house to house They are
Yes,
going from house to house, and they are actually leaving packets on
hanging on
the
the
door
door.
for
She
the
told,
citizens to complete.
yeah,
So it's not like they're not getting them; they're actually getting them.
because she told me on
That was
Sunday.
news to me.
Department, if we can, ask them just to make an announcement while they're out. We need to make sure, I mean, that we've got to put it on the marquee, along with remember the Hampton Animal Clinic is going to be doing June 20th, the free rate, or not, it's I believe the rabies thing is free, but then they'll do all your dog shots and stuff, I think from 9 to 11 at Town Hall. It's a great way for people to save a lot of money, but we got to get to the bottom of this, because that's like something. I'm going to call the gentleman from the U.S. Census Bureau that we've had. I'm going to have a discussion with them. And Ms. Miller, I appreciate if you would do the same.
Well, I'll just forward you his emails because that's how I found out. I was as indignant as you are. Miss O'Banner is aware of that. I just didn't know that they had decided to finally go door to door. So,
Yep, she was out there Sunday. She
Okay.
came to my house.
P.O. boxes don't receive census mail.
And Mayor, and guess
Okay.
what? She had my old address on there, 562 Keene
Well,
Avenue.
that's an E911 problem in Solomon's. That's what we're waiting on the county. All right, Mr. Hadwin, you have something to say, and then I want to wrap it up.
All right. In regards to the census, I would make this recommendation. Maybe we need to look and see if we can, the county will benefit from this just as much as we will. Maybe have someone assist the senior citizens at the Senior Citizens Center if they'll bring their paperwork with them, complete it there, and maybe someone can mail it from there. Collect it all and mail it. Maybe have a meeting at the Bull Durham, a select few, have them come in and have people assist with them there. In addition to the letter going out, I think that's a wonderful idea. It will explain why we need the census, what we're going to gain out of it, however we want to look at it, and maybe, excuse me, put in that letter where this assistance can be received to complete a paper census if necessary. So that's all I'll say about the census. The only other thing I will say in closing on my end tonight, I appreciate our citizens for what they did during the curfew. A lot of our citizens adhered to it to help slow down the spread of this dreadful COVID-19 pandemic. None of us need to take our guards down. Constantly wash your hands. Use those masks when you're out in public. If you can't wash your hands, use sanitizer, hand sanitizer until you can get back home. And finally, citizens, I just want you to understand, you elected us to do a job to move Estill forward, and we need you to get on board with us. We can only do so much to move our town forward from the bureaucratic side. We need your involvement, citizens, in this process. We need you to tell us what you want. Come to our meetings when we're able to get back in a normal environment. But until then, feel free to drop off any kind of questions, concerns, suggestions to us. We work for you, and we want to move Estill forward. We want Estill to be the diamond in Hampton County. We want to erase any kind of image Estill has had in the past. We move forward. But we need everyone in our community moving us forward, not just us. There's only so much we can do as your 5 elected officials, business people. We need you to tell us what you need, as well as our residents what they need. And Ms. Miller, I give you props because you're enlightening us on some things that we need to get in place. And I commend you on the efforts that you're doing as well to try and get some industry, some businesses and development within our town. So thank you for that. And I want the citizens to know it is a pleasure to serve with these other 4 on this council. Trust me, if you only understood how passionate the five of us are about Estill, we may not always agree how to get there, the method to get there, but we get there. And so join us and let's move Estill forward. That's what I want to see. I want to see Estill moving forward. I want to see growth back in this town. Estill used to have 2 furniture stores. It used to have 2 department stores. We still have 2 hardware stores. We still have 2 grocery stores. We used to have a theater. Most of you probably don't remember that theater. Maybe I won't call any names to save myself here right now, but I can remember the theater right there by the old.
I know where it used to be, Mr. Hadley.
But Estill has so much potential. Let's tap into that potential as a group and let's work together for this common cause. Now, that's all I'm going to say in closing.
Mr. Hadley, you're running for president.
No, sir, I am not, and you couldn't pay me.
No, I completely agree with you. I think that our citizens know that this council has this town down hard. And there's some serious things that we are addressing, some serious things that we're moving forward. And I appreciate this council. I appreciate our employees, and I know that we're all going through some serious times. But we always have to remember that's not in our hands. We did the best that we can do, and we have to leave it up to our Lord and Savior, and we'll get through this. Council, at this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor, if I'm in order, I would like to make a motion that we adjourn June
Second.
10th, 2020 meeting.
Second.
That motion and properly second. All in favor, I know you by raising your right hand and stating aye. Motion, meeting is adjourned.
Everyone have a good evening.